A very good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Astha Jaiswal. I am Associate Professor in Sri Sai College of Pharmacy, Hadia Prayagraj. Good afternoon, sir. We welcome you on the behalf of Sri Sai College of Pharmacy. We welcome you in online webinar. The topic on aggregate reporting and overview. This lecture will be very important and knowledgeable for students and faculty members. Hello, students. Dr. Diplesh Prakash Jain sir is here. He is Manager Aggregate Report Analyst in Pfizer Healthcare India Private Limited, Chennai. He is giving you a lecture on aggregate reporting and overview. Sir, let's start now.
Hi everyone. Can you hear me, madam?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's begin.
Yes.
Sorry. So very good afternoon to everyone. I'm thankful to Sri Sai College of Pharmacy for inviting me for this guest lecture on the aggregate reporting and overview. And thankful to Dr. Sunil Singh and Jaiswal madam for organizing this event. So with this, I'll start my presentation. So my today's topic is aggregate reporting and overview. So there we will discuss what is located at Chennai. So before starting with the presentation, next slide, please. So next slide,
Next.
please. I'm not able to see these slides, or I can see the
Just
Dr.
a
Sunil
moment.
Singh screen. Yeah, now I can see. Okay, next slide. Back. Disc. Second slide.
Second, next.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello. Yeah,
Sir,
second slide.
are you listening?
No, no, no.
Next.
Yeah, I'm no, I'm seeing the historical background. Slide number 2.
Slide
Yeah,
number.
because it is important for us.
Slide number 2.
Next slide. Yeah, next slide. Yeah, there is no slide 2. I think this is slide
Next slide.
3. No, okay, just be on this slide. Okay. So before back slide, madam, please.
Back slides.
Hello. Yeah, okay,
Yes,
okay,
sir.
be on this slide. Okay, be on this slide. So before going to present this topic, I just want to make an disclaimer that the statement of facts and opinion expressed during my presentation are of mine, and it should not be attributed to the employer or any organization or society with which I am affiliated currently. Next slide, please. Okay, so what we are going to see in today's webinar, we will see what is the history of pharmacovigilance, and we'll look into some definition and basic terminologies. Then we will discuss about the PV workflow, what are the 4 important components of the pharmacovigilance in PV industry, and then we will discuss about what is aggregate reports, and we will see certain formats of aggregate report like DSUR, PSUR, PBRR, PAIDER, PAIR, CAR, SEO. So those are all the different forms of aggregate reports, and we prepared those aggregate reports as per the country requirement or the regulatory requirement for the particular territory. Okay. So next slide, please.
So next.
Okay, so before we dig into the actual pharmacovigilance, let's look into the what are the historical background of pharmacovigilance. Okay, so what we are seeing pharmacovigilance currently, it is not the new concept. Okay, it was already started around 170 years back in 1848 when the Anaha's death was reported. Okay, so Anaha was the 11-year-old girl. Okay, who was died after receiving the chloroform anesthesia. That time, the chloroform was introduced as an anesthetics, and it was propagated that the chloroform is the very safest anesthetic. Okay, but once Anaha's death is done, and it was impossible to find out what exactly killed Anaha. But later on, it was identified the anesthesia chloroform is responsible for the Anaha's death. Okay, so that was the first case reported in the past, and which gives a stimulation to the system that even the drug is shows the efficacy, but the continuous monitoring throughout its life cycle is very important. Another tragedy was occurs in USA when the many people died who consumed the sulfamyl, who died because of the diethyl glycol, which was used as a solvent in some of the elixir. Then, with this story in 1937, the USA start up the Federal Food and Drug Cosmetic Act. Okay, FDA was established just to give the importance on the public health. After that, there was another incident reported in 1955. The acetyl salicylic acid. So it was find the link that the acetyl salicylic acid is creating the gastrointestinal toxicity. But the major turn is happened when in 1961. I hope many of you being in fourth year pharmacology fourth year pharmacy student, you must be aware about the thalidomide tragedy. So what happens in thalidomide tragedy? There are thousands of babies were born with a amelia. That condition is called as phocomelia, with a limbless baby. And what could be the reason behind this phocomelia? Because in Europe, the thalidomide was introduced as an antiemetic drug for the pregnant lady in the first trimester. So the pregnant lady who consumed the thalidomide first trimester, they delivered the baby with the condition phocomelia. Okay, but later on it was identified that the thalidomide is responsible for this condition, and this event gives a lot of thinking, and this event led to a lot of changes into the drug monitoring system. So after this 1961 event, the UK had introduced the yellow card system to report any side effect or adverse effect experienced by the patient to the regulatory authority. After 1964, the EMA, European legislation, was developed, okay, to safeguard the public health. In 1968, WHO also instituted a program for international drug monitoring to safeguard the public health. And in 1995, EMA was set up. So what is EMA? EMA is called as European Medicine Agency. So European Medicine Agency is a regulatory body for the entire Europe, which monitor the safety and efficacy of a drug throughout its product life cycle. In 2001, the EMA funded the Udra Vigilance. Udra Vigilance is nothing but a safety database where all the adverse drug reactions are stored in that database, particularly for the Europe. And in 2012, the EMA has developed a new European pharmacovigilance legislation. Means they have created the new system, how to report the drug, what are the expedited reporting, how to create the aggregate reports, what should be the content into the aggregate report. So all this format is developed in 2012, and then in 2017, the new Udra Vigilance format came in force, where the structure of the previous aggregate report has tremendously changed. The previous aggregate reports was majorly focused on the safety, but this new format is focused on the safety as well as efficacy and the risk benefit analysis. So all those, then apart from this, many changes have occurred in the new Udra Vigilance format. So these are all the historical background of the pharmacovigilance. So what we are seeing today, pharmacovigilance, is not the new concept, but lot of incidences had occurred in the past, which stimulate the regulatory body to have a robust system which monitor the adverse effect, or which monitor the safety and efficacy of a drug, even throughout its complete product life cycle. Okay, so I hope this clarifies or this sensitizes the issue, how the pharmacovigilance is important as to monitor the safety and efficacy or for the safeguard of public health. Next slide, please. So I think we everyone knows that whenever the drugs comes into the market, drug has to go undergo a several clinical trials, right? And once the drug establish or the prove its safety and efficacy in the clinical trial, then only the drug come into the market for clinical practice. So, but when the drug is being investigated into the clinical study, there is a lot of limitations compared to when the drug is used in clinical practice. Okay, and that is why not only checking the safety and efficacy is sufficient during the clinical trial, but later on the safety and efficacy is again important, or we will get the broader overview of the safety and efficacy when it is being used in the clinical practice. So I hope you understood what is clinical study. Clinical study is nothing but when the drug is being investigated before it's marketed into the before it marketed. And what is clinical practice? The use of a drug when they are available into the market. So why the clinical study has a limitation or provide the very narrow data compared to the clinical practice? Because in clinical study, you all might have studied that the clinical study conducted in different phases: phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 trial, right? So in all the phases, if you look into the number of patients enrolled for phase 1, it may be a 10 to 20, phase 2 maybe 100, and phase 3 studies, some thousands of patients only enrolled. But when the drug is available in the market, the millions of patients are using the drug. And that's why the data coming from those number of patients is more important to check the safety of the product. Okay. Duration, we know that the clinical study may be conducted for few weeks or few months, but whereas when the drug is available in the clinical practice or in the market, the drug may be consumed for several years. Then next is population. We know that whenever we do the clinical study, we do not involve the vulnerable population. So what is vulnerable population? Or example, pregnant lady, generally we try to avoid to enroll the pregnant lady, children, elderly. So all those populations are generally excluded when the drug is being tested into the clinical study. And that is why what is the exact effect of a drug in those category of patient, we generally have a lack of data, and that is a limited information. When the drug is available in the clinical practice, all kinds of population are exposed to the drugs or they are taking the drug, and that's why the data is more robust than the clinical study. Next, very important factor is concomitant medication. We know that the clinical study is the uh, very controlled trial. Okay, the investigator has their own control what to be administered to the patient, what parameters to be checked. Okay, so generally the investigator avoid the concomitant medication. But when the drug available in clinical practice, we know many patients will take the over the counter of drug and they are taking the drug along with the prescribed medicines. Okay, so usually the concomitant medications are present when the drug is used in clinical practice, and these concomitant medication may play a sometimes important role. We know the many drug interaction may increase or decrease the efficacy or increase the side effect of other drug. Okay, so these information we will only get to know that when the drug is available in clinical practice. Another important factor is dose. When the investigator is doing trial, the dose is very fixed. They are very particular about the administration of certain amount of doses as per their protocol. But when the drug is used in clinical practice, we know sometimes we forget to take medicine, sometimes we take the double the dose, sometimes we take half the dose, sometimes we miss the dose. Okay, so the dose is very variable in clinical practice, and that is why the safety and efficacy profile may also vary. Okay, and that is why it is very important. So what is the important aspect in this? The clinical study are very controlled and clinical practice are very flexible. So the data, yeah, it is very essential to get the safety and efficacy profile of a drug in clinical study, and because of that only, and on that basis only, the drug is approved and comes into the market. But the pharmacovigilance means the overall vigilance or the watch on the drug is not end at the clinical practice. The vigilance or the watch on the drug starts from the coming from the clinical practice aspect to take the further decision throughout the life cycle of the product. Next slide, please. Next slide. So I hope with this you might have sensitized the looking at the historical perspective of pharmacovigilance, because we have seen there are several incidences occurs where the lot of people died or a lot of people have the permanent disabilities or the anomalies occurs in the past because of the negligence, because of there is no continuous watch on the medication, or there is no continuous reporting or the vigilance of the medicine. And also we have seen what are the limitations of the drug which is being investigated in the clinical study. And therefore the pharmacovigilance is very, very important to safeguard the public health. So we'll look into the definition. So what is pharmacovigilance? If you break the word pharmacovigilance, it is made up of two words. Pharmacon, everybody knows, I guess, being a pharmacy student. Pharmacon is a medicinal substance. And what is vigili? Vigili is the to keep a watch. So we have to continuously watch on the drug throughout its life cycle, and that science and that activities are called as the pharmacovigilance. So by definition, pharmacovigilance is the science and activities. And what exactly we do, being a pharmacovigilance professional, we do the detection of the ADR, then assess the ADR, understand what is why these ADRs have happened, and we also look into how we can prevent those adverse effects or any other medicines or vaccine related problems. So by definition, pharmacovigilance is the science and activities relating to the detection, assessment, understanding and prevention of adverse event or effect of it of any drug or medicines. Okay, so what are the outcomes of pharmacovigilance? Pharmacovigilance, we not only check the safety, but we also look into the efficacy. The efficacy which is proved in clinical trial, are we seeing those efficacy or that amount of efficacy when the drugs is used in clinical practice or not? And if it is increase or decrease, what are the factors responsible for that change in efficacy? So outcome of pharmacovigilance are two, safety and efficacy. So in nutshell, we can see pharmacovigilance is nothing but it asks, does a drug work and is it safe? So does the drug work means we are checking the efficacy, and is it safe means we are checking the safety of profile of medication. Next slide, please. Uh, Next slide. Before that, there is one more slide. No. Okay. So no, next slide. Correct. Next slide, please. So what is the objective of pharmacovigilance? Objective of pharmacovigilance is very easy. First is detect the unknown adverse effect or the drug interaction. We know that we cannot identify all the adverse effect during the clinical study because clinical study has the limitation. So the one most important objective of pharmacovigilance is detect any unknown adverse effect of a drug or the drug interaction. Then find second objective is identify the mechanism that causes an adverse drug reaction, adverse drug effect, because we are seeing that what is the cause of that ADR. It may be because of the drug interaction, or it may be because of overdose, or it could be because of some pharmacological mechanism of that drug. Then the third point is the timely correction or taking the therapeutic errors. Okay, if the drug adverse effects are occurring because of medication error, or if the adverse drug reactions are occurring because of the administration or the prescribed indication, so we can take the timely correction on the therapeutic errors, so we can avoid those further adverse drug reaction. And we can reevaluate the risk benefit balance of medication. So see, the benefit risk balance is very, very important, because whenever the regulatory body approves the drug, they always check the benefit risk profile of the drug. So what is mean by benefit risk profile? The benefit should always high or outweigh than the risk. As we know, suppose if I wanted to say, if you take the cancer medication or anti-cancer drug, so you know the anti-cancer drug has a lot of side effect. Okay, it has a lot of side effect, but still the anti-cancer drugs are available into the market. Why? Because the benefit, anti-cancer drugs are increases the life expectancy, the anti-cancer drugs are decreases the fatality because the cancer is very fatal. Okay, so in that aspect, if you look into the side effect of anti-cancer drug and the benefit of the anti-cancer drug, the benefit is outweigh than the risk, and that is why the anti-cancer drugs are available in the market. But do you think if the similar side effect is having the paracetamol, does the paracetamol will exist into the market? No, because the paracetamol is only effective in fever, and we have a lot of choices in fever. Fever is not that fatal as compared to the side effect which is occurring in the anti-cancer drug. So whenever the drugs comes into the market, we have to always check the risk benefit assessment. Okay, and whenever the benefit is outweigh than the risk, then only the drug comes into the market. So not only during the clinical study, as we come across the various side effect associated with the drug, we time periodically we reevaluate the risk benefit balance of a medication, and if the risk benefit balance is suggest to have that medication in the market, then only the medication is available into the market. Otherwise we can withdraw or we can take the regulatory action. And what is the outcome? So all these outcome is the whatever we understand during the pharmacovigilance, finally we have to distribute this information, we have to convey this information to the healthcare provider. Why? Because those are the prescriber, they should be aware about what is happening with the medication, so they can prevent further prescription, or they can modify, and they can limit the occurrence of side effects. So distribution of information is very, very important of the pharmacovigilance. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so I think before that there is one more slide. Is there one more slide before this slide? Back, previous, no. Next, I think I'm not sure why the other slides are not showing. Okay, next slide. Okay, let it be. So we know that the adverse effect. So what is adverse effect? Adverse effect is nothing but the undesirable effect. Okay, so undesirable effect or untoward effect. So these adverse effect. So there is a very important concept: adverse event and adverse drug reaction. Okay, so what is adverse event? When there is an undesirable effect, but it may not, or it may or may not relating to the investigational drug, and that kind of undesirable effect we call as an adverse event. For example, generally the adverse event which occurs in the we call it as an adverse event. Then that event we call it as an adverse event. And when we term adverse event or the serious event, if the adverse event has 6 seriousness criteria, if the adverse event following the adverse event there is a death, if the adverse event causes the life threatening condition, if the adverse event is responsible for prolongation of hospitalization, if the adverse event can cause the congenital anomaly or birth defect, or there is a persistent disability or incapacity, or any other medically significant event. So if the adverse event meets any of these 6 seriousness criteria, then that adverse event we called it as the serious adverse event. If all these 6 criteria are not present but still there is undesirable effect, then we can classify it as a non-serious. So always see, the adverse event or adverse drug reaction has 2 components: serious and non-serious. So what is serious? If the event is having any of these 6 criteria, fulfilling any of these 6 criteria, we can say as a serious event. If it is not, then we can say as a non-serious event. Another concept, adverse drug reaction. So what is adverse drug reaction? Generally the adverse drug reaction, we use the term when the drug is used in clinical practice. Okay, so when there is a causality, okay, when there is an association between the undesirable effect and a drug, then we can call it as an adverse drug reaction. Okay, and if this adverse drug reaction meets all the 6 seriousness criteria, or any of these 6 seriousness criteria, then we can call it as a serious adverse drug reaction. So understood the basic difference. What is adverse event? When it is not related to the investigational drug, may or may not, we don't have the proper evidences to support that the drug is responsible to create the adverse undesirable event, so we can call this an adverse event. But whenever we have a proper evidence which correlates the drug and the side effect, that time we can call it as an adverse drug reaction. Next slide, please. So, there are what are the basic terminologies? Just now we have discussed investigational product. So, what is investigational product? Any medication which is used into the clinical study, or the any medication which is used in clinical trial, we called it as an investigational product. Okay. Then adverse event. Just now we have seen any untoward medical occurrence occurring into a patient or clinical trial subject, which does not necessarily have a causal relationship with the treatment. Okay, the drug may or may not be responsible to create this undesirable effect. We called it as an adverse event. But whenever there is a causal relationship with the drug, we can call it as an adverse drug reaction. Whatever the adverse drug reactions or adverse event which occurs into the which happens into due to the medication, every company document all those information into one document along with the drug related information, and that document is called as a CDS, okay, company core data sheet. So what is company core data sheet? It is a document which is prepared by MH, marketing authorization holder, means what? The company. Pfizer is a marketing authorization holder, any company is a marketing authorization holder, which contain all the safety related information, means what are the side effects associated with the drug, what are the warning and precaution, along with the information relating to the posology, means dosing, the pharmacology, mechanism of action, and any other information concerning to the product. So all these information which is available in a single document, and that document is called as a CDS. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. Then CSI. CSI is nothing but it's extract of CDS. So CDS contain all the information. CDS contains safety profile. CDS contain dosing information. CDS contain the contains the mechanism of action and all other warning precautions and blah blah. So many information is there in CDS. But in CSI, company core safety information, which contains only the safety related information, okay, and that is called as a CSI. So sometimes company prepares CDS, but sometimes depends on the different regulatory authorities, they also want their local CSI, okay. So very important concept, whenever the side effect occurs, we always classify those side effect as expected and unexpected. So what is the difference? As we have seen that the adverse effect associated with that product is mentioned into the CDS. So if any patient comes or any case comes and they say that after taking the medication, I got this event, okay, then we have to check that event into the CDS. If the event is listed into the CDS, then we can call it as an expected event. But the event is new, which is not reported into the CDS, we can term it as an unexpected event. For example, if we take the anti-diabetic medications, for example, metformin, we know that if the metformin taken into the high dose, it may create the hypoglycemia. In pharmacology, whenever you study the drug, always every drug, after that you will see the different adverse drug reactions reported for the particular drug, right? So if the any patient comes and who complain that after taking metformin, I have a decreased blood glucose level or hypoglycemia. So in that case, you will see in the CDM, metformin is responsible. Even if metformin is taking in a high dose, it may create the hypoglycemia. So you can term those event as expected event. But if the patient comes and say that I took the metformin and have a high allergic reaction, this high severe allergic reaction is not reported before or it not observed into the clinical study, and that is why the allergic reaction is not documented into the CDS. And that time you can say that those are the unexpected event, okay. So expected and unexpected event is checked against the CDS or CSI, okay. Next, suspected unexpected serious adverse drug reaction. Generally, these terms are used for the clinical trial cases. Okay, so what is suspected unexpected serious adverse drug reaction? It is an adverse event that occurs in clinical trial subject, which is assessed by the sponsor or the study investigator as being unexpected, but it may be a serious and having a reasonable possibility that there is a causal relationship within the study drug. Okay, and that's why it is called as a SUSAR. Okay, so whenever there is a suspected means what? The sponsor or the study drug investigator have a belief that the drug is responsible to create this event, but when they conduct the trial, that time it was unexpected, they didn't expect that certain such type of event may occur, okay, and that events are serious in nature, and that is why it is called as suspected unexpected serious drug reaction. So remember, these SUSAR cases are generally denoted for the clinical trial cases. Right now, if you remember or if you understand, this much is also important, useful. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So as I say, PV has four component. Okay, in industry, the PV has four component. One very important component is ICSR, that is called as individual case safety report. Second component is aggregate report. Okay, third component is uh, risk management, and the fourth component is the signal detection. Okay, so what are those four components? ICSR is denoted as the individual case safety report. So whenever there is an adverse drug reaction occurs or any side effect occurs, patient comes or the case comes to the industry, and the information against that case is documented into the system, and that single case documentation is called as an individual case safety report. Once the several ICSR is documented into the system, and we have to report and summarized format of report on a periodic basis, sometime quarterly, sometime yearly, depends on the regulatory body uh, request. And that report is, we will call it as an aggregate report. What is signal detection? As I explained you, suppose you investigated a drug into the clinical study, you documented some side effect, okay? But when the drug is used in clinical practice, and you might have seen there are several cases which is coming up for certain adverse effect which is not being observed into the clinical study. So that gives you a signal, okay? That gives you a signal that the drug might have the new type of side effect, and that process is called as a signal detection. So once a signal is detected, we have to validate that signal, reevaluate that signal, and if we believe that, yeah, this may be the this side effect is responsible, or there is a causal relationship between the study drug and the side effect, then accordingly we have to update our CDS. And the fourth is risk management. So whenever we launch the drug, we always have a risk management plan. Means we know what are the expected side effect of a drug, but how come we can mitigate or prevent those side effects. So all those information is documented in one document, and that is called as a risk management. Okay, so those are the four important. So here in this slide particularly, we will see the ICSR, how the PV workflow work. Okay, so we know that how the case comes to the industry, or how the case reported into the pharmaceutical to the regulatory body. There are different sources. One is called spontaneous. For example, if you are taking a drug, you experience some side effect, either you go to your physician and you will tell that I have experienced this side effect, and your physician will report that side effect to the regulatory body or to the company. Okay, or you yourself can also report. Okay, in India we have their different channel. We have that Android app is available, we have that toll free number is available, we have the forms available where we you can put your information. So whenever the when and that case is considered valid, you have to include patient details, you have to include what are the side effect you experience, you have to mention at least one drug, okay, which you consume, and you say that the side effect occurs, and the reporter information. So these cases are called as a spontaneous cases. Sometimes the regulatory bodies or the pharmaceutical industry also do the literature search. Okay, and we know that in literature we have the medical literature where the various author published that, or during the clinical study or during their regular study, if they observe certain side effect and they report those patient related information into the medical journal. So the literature is one of the important source to generate the cases. The third one is clinical trial. We know that whenever the patient comes into the clinical trial, investigator see what are the side effects are they are experiencing, and the case is also coming from that, and some are the internet sources. Okay, so these are the different sources by which the case is received into the industry or regulatory body. So once this case is received, then ICSR case processing is very important. And believe me, being a pharmacy graduate student, there are a lot of opportunities in industry for the ICSR case processing. Okay, there are different job levels are available in ICSR case processing. So what is their work? Once the case comes into the system, first they will check the duplicate check. So what is duplicate check? Whether the similar case has already been reported earlier. Okay, if it is reported earlier, they will not create the new case number. If it is not there in the system after duplicate check, then they will create a case number for the system. Okay, and that step is called as a triage. Okay, so triage is nothing but once you receive the case is entered into the system, a particular case ID is developed, and that information is, or that process is called as triage. Once the case ID is generated, we have a software. Okay, every industry has their software, either Argus or ArisG. Some companies using ArisG, some companies are using Argus. So those are the database software where you have to put the information you have received against the particular case. So what information you will receive in data entry? You will put the patient related details. What is the age of patient, sex of the patient, ethnicity, okay, country of origin, all those, whatever the information is available regarding the patient, you will put. Then second information, what you put? You will put what are the side effect is experienced by the patient. Then you will add the what are the suspect medication, what medication is consumed by the patient, what are the dose, what are the batch number, whatever the inform amount of information available, you can put those information and the reporter details, because sometimes we may receive the limited informations, and that's why the follow up is very important. So to do the follow up, we always have the reporters information. Okay, so all those information is entered into the database, and that process is called as data entry. So once you enter the data entry, there are the again a set of people available, or the job opportunities are available, called as a quality review. We have to check whether the person who entered the case details have correctly entered or correctly captured all the details present into the case. Okay, so that is called as a quality review. Once the quality review is performed, then second is a medical review. Medical review means what? Medical review will see whether the side effect experienced by the patient, it is suspected or unexpected against the CDS or CSI, or they will also check based on the outcome of that side effect. If it is serious, then they will quote it as serious. If it is non-serious, then they will quote it as a non-serious. So medical review is job is to check the assess the cases, assess the side effect, whether it is expected, unexpected, whether it is serious or non-serious. And once the medical review is done, then the case is closed. Okay, and these case, then if the case is received by the company has to submit this case to the particular regulatory board authority, and that is why it is called as an expedited reporting. So again, the reporting period is vary depending how the case is serious. If the case is fatal, okay, if the after taking the medication patient experience the event, and that event is responsible for the death, so in that case we have to report this case within 7 calendar days. If the case is serious but there is no death, but still there is a permanent disability, congenital anomalies, or other factor, we have to report the case to the regulatory authority to the 15 days. And if the case is not having any serious event, whatever the event experienced or the reaction experienced by the patient are non-serious, then we can report those cases to the regulatory body within 90 days. And that is called as an expedited reporting and non-expedited reporting. Once all the cases against that product is reported, we have to create an aggregate report as per the country's format. Okay, and for particular duration, maybe a quarterly, 3 months report, 1 year report. Means what? During this 3 months or during this 1 year, how many cases are reported against that drug? We have to summarize all those cases in particular format. We will see into the next slide what are the different formats available, and that process is called as an aggregate report, and that aggregate report also we have to submit to the regulatory bodies. So based on these information, expedited reporting and aggregate reporting, regulatory bodies takes an action. What actions regulatory body will take? Regulatory body will check the benefit risk balance. They will see whether the benefit is outweigh than the risk. They will see the whether the drug is comfortable to use into the public health system, or we can withdraw the drug, or we can remove that, we can alter the dose, we can put certain limitation to use in certain population. So all those different actions the regulatory bodies can initiate, and that is the finally outcome, and then we can distribute that information. Next slide, please. So what is aggregate report? Okay, be on this slide. What is previous slide. So in ICSR, we see ICSR only discuss about the single case. In ICSR, we put the case, we review the case, we give medical review. It's only for single case. But in aggregate report, we summarizes all the cases which is received by for the particular product for a particular period, or on a periodic basis we have to create that report. So by definition, what is the aggregate report? It review the cumulative safety information from wide range of sources on periodic basis and submit that information to the regulator. As I say, ICSR focuses on the individual case, but aggregate reports we consider number of cases which is reported for that product during that particular period. So, and it also analyzes the medicinal product benefit risk balance throughout its life cycle. So aggregate reports provide the broader overview of the safety profile of the drug as compared to the ICSR. Next slide, please. So what is the responsibilities of ICA aggregate report? It retrieved and analyzed the safety data. It established the risk benefit profile. It alert the physician of potential event. It create and maintain the periodic safety expert. It tracking them and managing the preparation of report, the medical review of the draft, submission of these draft to the health authority. Sometimes these reports are the health authority time compliance to the health authority timeline. And sometimes we, as an aggregate report analyst, we also receive some health authority query, which is not the periodic one, but some ad hoc reports are also we need to report. So that is called as handling and responding to the health authority query. So those are the job responsibilities of the aggregate report analyst. So we have seen in ICSR we have multiple job opportunities available for data entry, medical review, quality review. After that, in aggregate report also we have an various job opportunities available being a pharmacy student as an aggregate report analyst, where you can prepare the different types of different forms of aggregate reports which is required for the regulatory submission. And again, there is a review team is set up for the aggregate report. All the report which is prepared by the aggregate report analyst, it should be reviewed by the quality review team or the review team, and then only it gets approved and submitted to the regulatory bodies. So you will see, like, there's a lot of job opportunities available in pharmacovigilance industry. Next slide, please. So what are the classification of aggregate reports? So aggregate reports are two class, okay, or two types based on the drug development stage. Okay, we know that whenever the drug is in clinical study, means the drug is not approved to market. Okay, so in that case, whatever the side effect which is reported against the drug, or the side effect which is side event, adverse event which is reported during the clinical study, and we have to prepare that report, that aggregate report is called as a pre-marketing or pre-approval reports. Okay, so what are the types of pre-approval report? In US we have to submit a report in one format that is called as an IND, annual report. And Europe, there is a format is called as an annual safety report. But nowadays, these two reports are combined together, and we have a single report called as a development safety update report, DSUR. So what is DSUR? This is an aggregate report which is prepared for a drug when the drug is being investigated into the clinical studies. When the drug is available into the market, after it passes all the clinical trial, still we have to continuously watch on the drug, and with the reports which are prepared according to the different regulatory requirement, those reports are called as post marketing or post approval reports. So what are the different types of post approval report? For example, in Europe, the report is called as PBRR, okay, or PSUR. Earlier it was volume 9A PSUR, but and now it is more extensive report is available, and that is called as PBRR, periodic benefit risk evaluation report. In USA, the similar report is prepared, but in different format. Okay, the information is less as compared to the PBRR, and that report is called as PADER or PAIR. If it is a drug, then that report is called as periodic adverse drug experience report. If you are preparing the report for vaccines or biologicals, then it is called as a periodic adverse experience report, PAIR. Canada has their own format to report this information, and that report is called as Canadian Annual Report. And generally, we also prepared the ACO for long period. We know that once the drug is available or approved for certain country, it is not approved for lifelong. Okay, we have to continuously get the license renewal. Okay, and at the time of license renewal, we have to submit one more aggregate report, and that aggregate report is called as the addendum to clinical overview for renewal. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So what are the basic terminologies? As we see, the aggregate reports are prepared for periodic basis. Okay, so we have to have a data log point. Data log point means what? I wanted to prepare an aggregate report or the cases which is reported for metformin. For example, I'm preparing an aggregate report for metformin. I am taking considering the cases which is reported from 1st January 2025 to 31st January 2025. So what is this 31st January 2025? It is a data log point. Okay, I am considering all the cases which is received until 31st December 2025. So that is called as a data log point. And now the question is how we can decide the data log point. The data log point can be decided based on the international birth date or the developmental international birth date of the product. Now you might have seen that every drug has their own birth date. Okay, everybody has their own birthday, right? So like that, the drug is also having their own birthday. So what is the international birthday? So any the date of first marketing authorization of the product containing the active substance to any company in any countries in the world, that is called as an international birth date. For example, if company X has received the marketing authorization for metformin on 31st December 2025. So 31st December 2025 is the international birth date for that product. Okay. What is a developmental international birth date? Developmental international birth date is any date of first approval for conducting interventional clinical trial. Suppose you have your drug Y, okay, you want to start the clinical trial, okay. So for that you go and apply to the regulatory body, and regulatory body gives you an approval. So that date is called as an birth date of the patient. So the date when you receive the approval to start the clinical trial, and that is called as a developmental international birth date. So IBD and DIBD, okay, these are the very important dates to consider the data log point for the preparation of aggregate report. So understood data log point. Data log point is nothing but the cutoff date until which you will consider the cases to consider to summarize those cases into the aggregate report. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, what is identified risk and potential risk? As we see, the every drug has their own risk. Okay, so what is identified risk? If the patient is experiencing any side effect, and if you see that there is an adequate evidences that the drug is responsible for that risk, is called as an identified risk. For example, metformin. Okay, metformin is creating the hypoglycemia. By looking at the pharmacology profile of the metformin, you can understand that metformin can create the hypoglycemia. So that's why we can call it as an identified risk. What is potential risk? Suppose it is mentioned the metformin can cause diarrhea. Okay, there is assumption, but there is no proper evidences we have seen so far. So it is called as a potential risk. When any adverse event is occur, there is a suspicion between the association of the medicinal product, but there is no confirmation that it is occurs by the metformin or the particular drug. That is called as a potential risk. When the identified risk and potential risk has an ability to change the benefit risk profile of the product, that time those risks are very important to understand and to look into the throughout the life cycle. So that is called as an important identified and important potential risk. Next slide, please. Next slide, please.
Just a moment,
Next.
sir. Yes, sir.
So as we see, DSUR. So DSUR is the pre-marketing or post-marketing. DSUR is the pre-marketing approval, pre-marketing aggregate report. So what is DSUR? DSUR is nothing but the development safety update report. We have seen earlier for US, we have the IND annual report, and the EU, we have the EU annual summary report. Now both these reports are combined, and we have a single report called as an DSUR. So development safety update report. So just remember, the DSER is used to provide the information when the drug is being investigated into the clinical study. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Let's skip this. Next. So what are the objective of DSUR? So objective of DSUR is very simple. Just to present a comprehensive or thoughtful annual review and evaluation of pertinent safety information collecting to the reporting period. It also describes the new safety issue that could have an impact on the protection of clinical trial subject. It examines whether the information obtained by the sponsor during the reporting period is according with the previous knowledge of the investigational drug. It summarizes the current understanding and management of identified and potential risk. It provides the brief statement about the present understanding and management of identified and potential risk. Next slide, please. Next slide.
Yes, sir.
Next slide. What DSCR mainly include? DSCR mainly include the clinical investigation. It includes the safety information of the product. It includes the issues which may impact the safety of the clinical trial, and it provide the brief statement about the present understanding and management of identified and potential risk. I think it's very heavy for you now, but you just try to understand that DSUR are the reports which are prepared for the for the drug which is under the clinical trial. Okay, next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, so in this flowchart I have explained. So what is DSUR? How this preparation start? DSUR preparation start after first authorization of clinical trial in the world. And what is that date? We call it as a DIBT. Whenever the MH received or the investigator received the date of approval to start the clinical study, that is called as an DIBT. And what is DSUR? It is a single harmonized reporter or for the clinical trial in any country worldwide. So one DSUR is prepared for one investigational drug, and one DSUR used every year, everywhere around the world. So within 1 year of the DIBD, we have to provide the annual DSUR submission until all the clinical studies have ended. So whenever if the clinical studies are ongoing, if the clinical studies are ongoing for 5 years, 6 years, so every year you have to prepare a DSUR and you have to submit the DSUR in which country you have ongoing clinical trials. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, so we'll just quickly summarize what are the DSUR contents. The DSUR content. So these are every DSUR and PBR have the 20 sections. Okay, so as an aggregate report analyst, you have to author this 20 section. So what is the first section? Introduction, where you have the information related to the drug, what is mechanism of action, what are the dosage form available for the particular for the drug. So introduction covers that information. Second, worldwide marketing approval status, in which country the drug is marketed. Okay, uh, for mini DSUR, which is not yet marketed, that information is not there. But sometimes the drug is also into the clinical trial for other indication, and drug is approved for other indication. That time, or marketed for other indication, that time we may have this information. Then any action has been taken for safety reason for the particular period. What are the changes into the reference? So for DSUR, the reference safety information, RSI, is the IB, investigator brochure, because investigator brochure has an all this information uh, reported or content regarding the drug. Then what are the inventory, means how many ongoing and clinical trials are there. What are the significant findings from the clinical trials, means how many trials are completed, how many trials are ongoing, how many trials are long term follow up trials, how many trials are used for other therapeutic use in investigational trial. We may also include the information regarding the non interventional studies. We also include the information about the other clinical trials or safety study safety information. Then section 11, we put the safety finding from marketing experiences. Suppose the drug is being marketed as well. Then section 12, we include the non-clinical data. So any information, safety and efficacy information which has received for the non-clinical studies. Then we also look into the literature reported for the drugs and the drug class. And if we find any significant safety efficacy information, we can put. If other DSURs are prepared during that period, we can put that information. What are the lack of efficacy cases we have received during the reporting period? We have to mention in the section 15. Then region specific information. Sometimes region specific information is for the EU region. What are the any region specific information we have? We can put. Then late breaking information. So late breaking information is what as I say, 31st December 2025 is your data log point, and we have to submit the DSUR to the regulatory body within 60 days. Okay, so means 31st December is your data log point. Your deadline to submit the DSUR to the regulatory body is 2nd March. Okay, because it's a 60 days. Okay, so if you will consider all the cases received until 31st December, but 31st December to 2nd March, if you receive any significant information within the preparation of the DSUR, and that information is called as an late breaking information. Then section 18, you will summarize the evaluation of risk and benefit risk consideration. 19, just to summarize the all important risk, and to section 20 is the conclusion of the final DSUR. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide. So as I say, the DSUR is for the prepared as a pre-marketing or approval reports, and the PSUR and PBRs are the post-marketing approval reports. So when we prepared the PSUR and PBR, PSUR and PBR are prepared when the drug is available into the market. Okay, so PSUR and PBR are the official regulatory pharmacovigilance document for marketed products, and they have prepared by marketing authorization at defined time point during the post authorization. And what is the data log point? point for PSUR and PBRR is the international birth date. What is the criteria to select the data log point for the DSUR is the DIPD. So one PSUR is prepared for one active substance regardless of number of indication. For example, if you take methylprednisolone is used in the so many indications. So we will not prepare the PBRR for every indication. We'll prepare the only for methylprednisolone, which covers all the indication, all the dosage form, all the regimen. Okay, and separate PSUR only is prepared whenever there is a fixed dose combination. But for methylprednisolone, a single PSUR will be prepared for all the indications. Next slide, please. Next slide. So what are the objectives of the PSU or PWare? PSU provide the global safety experience of the marketing product. Okay, and it is a part of pharmacovigilance and risk monitoring, risk management monitoring. It also fulfill the regulatory requirement. As I say, the whenever you launch the product into a particular market, you have to periodically submit these aggregate reports. Then only your license will be active for for in the particular market. If you will fail to submit the regulatory these aggregate reports, you will not able to sell your drug in that particular market. Okay, so it fulfill see these aggregate report PSR and PBRs that fulfill the regulatory reporting requirement. It present the comprehensive and clinical analysis of new emerging information. It helps determine whether the changes should be made to the product information or not. Means like whether we have to do the some modification, we have to update the CDS, we have to disseminate this information to the healthcare professional, or what are the action taken has been taken. So all those information is very important to see for whether the changes should be made to the product. It provide so these are the main objectives of the PSUR and PBRR. Next slide, please. Next slide. So as I say, when we prepared the PSUR, it is prepared after first marketing authorization. So IBD is the very important point to consider the data log point for the PBRR. Okay, and it is a single harmonized date of the first authorization of the product in any country worldwide. That is IBD. We prepared the PSUR every 6 months for first 2 years of after receiving the marketing authorization, and then annually for the next 2 years, and thereafter every 6 months we prepare the sometimes we can prepare the so once we prepare the PSUR, we can submit the PSUR to the what is the submission of PSUR? As I say, it is a 70 days after data log point. So today is your data log point, 31st December 2025 is the PSUR data log point. If you are covering the 1 year interval period, so your submission date would be maybe 9th March. Okay, 70 days from today's date. Okay, so this is the submission of PSUR. But if your PSUR is covering 3 years PSUR, you are taking the 3 years data into consideration. So your submission of PSUR is the 90 days after the DLP. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, what are the PBRR content? As I explained, introduction, which no, backside, black, previous slide, please. Introduction, then worldwide marketing approval status, in which country the drug is marketed, in which country the drug is launched, in which country how many countries the drugs are withdrawn. Okay, so that gives the status in section 2nd. Section 3 will give you the what are the action has been taken by health authority regarding the safety reason for the particular drug. Then section 4 describe what are the changes to the reference safety information. We know CDS and CSI are the reference safety information, so any changes occurs. Then estimated exposure, how many patients have been exposed to the drug. Okay, how many clinical trial subjects are exposed to the drug. Okay, that information, that number is mentioned in section 5. Section 6 we mention the what are the total serious adverse event reported for the particular drug. Section 7 summarizes if any clinical trials are ongoing for the particular drug, so we can see how many trials are completed, how many ongoing, how many long-term trials. Then section 8 will explain how if any non-interventional study related information is obtained. Section 9 mention the information about the clinical trials and sources. Section 10 gives the non-clinical data. Next slide. Section 11 is literature, 12 is other periodic report, 13 describe the other lack of efficacy, 14 is lead breaking information, 15 is overview of signal. Any new signal is ongoing, detected or closed for the particular period. Section 16 is very important. Previous slide. Section 16 is very important because it provides the signal and risk evaluation. So we have to analyze the data what are the summary of safety concern, what are the signal evaluation things. Then we have to identify the various information, means how many cases reported for death, how many cases reported for lack of efficacy. The cases report, we have to analyze the cases for off-label use, means the drug is used for other indication which is not the approved indication. We have to analyze the cases, how many cases reported for overdose, what is the effect of drug in elderly population, what is the effect of a drug in pediatric population. Okay, so and what are the we have to summarize the important identified and important potential risk associated with that product. So all these information, section 16 is very broad section. So sometimes we'll take the detailed presentation on PBRER content. Okay, right now you just understand these are the 20 sections. Section 17 gives the benefit evaluation. The important baseline efficacy information about the this thing, and section 19 is conclusion, and section 20 is appendices. Any information you have to support the additional document, which you can upload it as an appendices. Next slide, please. So as I say earlier, when it was introduced, was a PSUR, but the PSUR is only that is called as Volume 9A PSUR, which is look into only safety profile. But now, as per the revised E2C guideline, we have the PBRER. Okay, PBRER is more extensive form. As we see, PBRER has 20 sections, which not only discuss about the risk, but which also focus on the benefit of the product. So PBRER is more extensive report as compared to the PSUR. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next, paider and pair. Okay, so what is paider and pair? As I say, the PSU or PBRER are generally submitted to the EU countries and other non-EU countries, and the paider and pair are the reports which is prepared as per the FDA code for drug. US code for federal regulation. Okay, so paider is prepared for the drugs and pair is prepared for the biologicals. And what is the frequency? When the MAH or when the company received the approval to launch the product in US, they have to submit this aggregate report quarterly for first 3 years, and thereafter annually. Okay, so just understand the paider and pair are the two reports which are submitted to the US regulatory authority. Paider is prepared for the drug and the pair is prepared for the vaccines and biological product. Next slide, please. Paider and pair is very simple report. Next slide. Okay, it was a summary of safety experiences of the marketing product, and it established whether the information received during the reporting period is in accordance with the knowledge of the product safety. Means we understand, we know the product safety profile, and whatever the information which is received during the report is consistent with this, the previously known information, or there are the changes. If there are the changes, we can update the label, we can update the CDS. Okay, so as we see, the CDS and CSI are the reference safety information, but for the US, we have an USPI, that is called as uh, United States Prescribing Information. Next slide, please. So paider and report is very simple report. It only contains the 15-day alert report. So what are the 15-day alert report? Those are the expedited reports. Expedited reports means if any fatal cases, or if any if the serious, if the adverse reaction is considered as unexpected and serious, then all those cases are mainly discussed into the paider report. Okay, next slide, please. The pair report is also similar. The only difference between the paider and pair report is paider is prepared for the drug and the pair is prepared for the biologicals. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next, car. So as I say, car is the, again, the objective of all these reports are similar. It provides the global safety experiences. It is a part of pharmacovigilance, and it fulfills the regulatory requirement, and it helps to determine whether the changes should be made to the product information or not. But the car is the particular report, okay, with the same objective. The car also has their own format, and the car is an official regulatory document for marketed products in Canada. So just remember, car report is prepared for the Canadian submission. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide. So ACO, as I say, ACO is an official regulatory document which is generally prepared for the product renewal. Okay, whenever there is a whenever there is a product license getting expired, or it is generally it is submitted 6 to 9 months before the renewal date of the product, and ACO should be signed by the accompanied by the CV and the clinical expert. So ACO is also described the similar information regarding the product safety. What are the number of cases reported for the particular period? And ACO also describe the identified and potential risk. Next slide, please. So ACO sections are also like similar to the what we have seen the section. Only additional section here is history of pharmacovigilance system. So ACO also describe what are the different audits and inspection occurs during the particular period in different countries on by the marketing authorization, or different how what are the different audits and inspection conducted by the health authority. So all those information goes additionally into the ACO. Otherwise, all the other informations are generally similar what we are discussed into the pay as you and PBR. Next slide, please. So these are all the information which I would like to wanted to tell you. But just remember, aggregate report is very important, and being an aggregate report analyst, it's very a great opportunity for the pharmacy student. So you can focus this thing as a career opportunities. Okay, so this is just part of medical writing. Okay, so medical writing and aggregate reporting is a part of medical writing. But apart from this, there are a lot of other opportunities are also available in medical writing, like regulatory writing, aggregate reporting, then mm, pro- promotional RAM, the material, promotional material which we prepared for the product launches. So what are the different medical writing opportunities to there? So please keep in mind, being a pharmacy student, you have a bright future in pharmacovigilance. So you can consider this as a very important career opportunities, or um, career options for your future. So with this, I conclude my presentations. Thank you once again for your patience listening. And I know it is too fast and there is too much data, but I hope if you remember some bit of information also, that would be helpful just to consider you as a career option. So with this, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for
If you have
giving
any
a
question,
wonderful and
you can ask, or you can reach out to me.
dear students, any question or query, if you want to ask, then put your message on the in the inbox or comment section. No question around here, sir.
Okay.
Are you listening to me, sir?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir, for giving
Yeah,
a wonderful
right
and
now there are.
informative.
If right now there is no question, they can you can take their questions and you can reach out to me at any point. I'll happy to answer those things.
Okay, sir. Sure, sure. Uh, Thank you, sir, for giving a wonderful and informative webinar. This webinar gives a grateful knowledge and quality for the student for his future. And we are probably present a certificate to you and providing a certificate for valuable for your for knowledge. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, madam. Thank you so much, Sunil sir, for organizing this event. I hope this will enlighten the students to consider as a pharmacovigilance as one of the career option. And I'm happy to provide another insight on medical writing whenever it's possible. We can consider that topic also for the discussion.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So with this, I exit from the meeting. Okay.
Okay, sir. Yes.